That's good. That's good. That's good.
How about you?
Oh, every week is a good week. But the weekends are even better.
This is true, and this was very nice.
Intertwined with everything. Could you tell us about your son's perseverance?
Well, as growing up, he was a young, smaller boy, and which I kind of go over in the book too, that he always got beat at running, and he really kind of got sick of it. And instead of quitting, he decided to work harder, and he'd run farther, he'd lift weights, and he actually turned the corner and became a really good runner. And I'm trying not to let kids who, they're told they're not good at something or they don't have talent, that you have to find that talent and work at it because you can be successful. And it's kind of sad sometimes when you hear people telling kids, "Oh, you could never do something," because I know it's not true.
No, that is very true. Now, your son, again, thank you for his service, was a Navy SEAL. So that alone, to dedicate yourself to that and to choose to take that path shows a great deal of perseverance. Can you tell us a little bit about your son's time in the service?
Sure. Well, first of all, he wanted to be a SEAL at 7 or 8 years old. And I don't know if you know little boys, but you think, oh, yeah, right. Well, he really did. And he dropped out of Indiana University, which I wasn't happy about, but he went into the SEAL program and he flew through it. I mean, he was really good at what he did. He was a good runner. He was like to help others. He was a team person as well as a leader, and that's what showed. He was in Iraq 3 times. He was in Afghanistan. He enjoyed, talking to the kids in those villages. He liked being part of the team, and he felt he was doing the right thing, and he was. And I'm really proud of what he's done.
And as you should be, and as we all are. So, was the book in progress before your son's passing, or did he know anything about this book? Okay.
Yes, yeah. Well, it wasn't. I mean, I did this book, and my mother, who's his grandma, was an artist. So I said, "Mom, draw some pages, and I want to do this book because I was a track coach. I had about 70 kids, and I would see this with all these kids, especially my son. So I wanted to tell a story about how instead of, when you get last, instead of quitting, you work harder and not just get the participation ribbon, but try to be good at something. And so that's what the book's about. And I wanted to publish it, and I actually tried, and nobody was interested. So I put it in a bucket, and I put it away. And it was, about Charlie. And the only fun thing was going through his things afterwards. I found the book, and I said, "Gosh, you would have always wanted me to publish this and spread the word for kids." And so my mom and I got together and finished the story of him becoming a SEAL, and that's all. We don't tell kids the ending, the real ending.
Right.
But if people want to talk about it, they can. But other than that, it's a great story for kids.
Krista, question: How important is it for children to find their talents?
Oh my gosh, it's your life. I mean, it will change your life. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I had 3 kids, and very close together, and we did ballet, we did dance, we did tennis, we did lacrosse, we did soccer, and all of a sudden the running hit, and they were all different. One was a hurdler, another one was a long distance runner like Charlie, and my daughter also was a great runner. And, finding that, you could see it change their life. They had a goal. They wanted to do well at school because they wanted to get a scholarship, and it really, really helps your life. And that's my thing, is to tell parents, try to find whatever it is, even if it's the flute, even if it's, writing, and then try to, give them more for it. I don't do it. Understand what I'm saying?
No, totally do. I mean, it's in our jobs together, doing what we do in the IT world. A lot of times we'll go assist someone, and they'll say, "Oh, you guys are really good at this. You're great. You're fantastic." And it's like, well, we may be good at doing this, but you, on the other hand, are very good at doing what you do. Everyone has to find that thing. That's probably the hardest part of it, identifying what that one thing is.
And actually, that's where parents, I think, are really important in the kids' lives, is to see what excites them and to say, "Hey, did you really like that? Well, let me see if I can get the guy down the street who's really good at that to help you with that," or whatever. Because, the teachers may see it. They may not tell you. They may send a note home. But, the parent has to have their eyes on it, because you could see something when the kid's 4 years old or 5 years old or 10 years old, and it makes their life. It changes their life.
Absolutely. So then, as a mother, of course, who's had a child in the military, what would your message be to other mothers whose sons or daughters are serving in the military?
Well, I mean, of course, we all have faith. I mean, if I didn't have faith, I wouldn't be here right now. But, we were very religious. We went to church every Sunday, or we still do. And you have to have faith, first of all. And second of all, you have to know that they're doing what they really want to be doing. And And we are so patriotic and so thankful for this country. And we've traveled, so we've seen outside of our country how much better our country is. And, you know, you just have to support your kids. And they're doing a great thing, and they're giving us our lives. And I know some people think it's, you know, some of the emails I've gotten have been negative towards war and things, but it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with being part of our world and part of our country, and just a positive influence, really. I don't know if I circled back to what you wanted.
No, you did.
You did, absolutely.
I do want to mention a portion of the proceeds from the book sales will benefit the Navy SEAL Foundation and K9 for Warriors in Charlie's honor.
Yes.
Tell us the ways that we can purchase this book, because I will say this much. I was blessed enough to receive a copy of your book last week, and I started reading it, and we're going to do something on our blog to spread the word outside of just doing this radio show. But tell the folks best ways they can find the book if they're interested, or learn more about your story, about Charlie's story. What should they do?
Well, the places where you can buy it are Amazon.com, Borders.com, Books A Million. And actually, I went into a bookstore the other day and saw it. So I don't, you know, there are some of those independent stores that do carry it, or like a military store. But you can just Google Big Hearted Charlie. Just that, it comes up. So it's been kind of exciting to see a lot of people get interested in enjoying the book. I had a school buy one for every classroom in our neighborhood, and so you know they want to teach things to kids. So I'm just so excited, really. And then my son is still here. You know, he's still influencing kids, which is
true.
I have to say, yeah.
That is true. Definitely, we want to thank you so much, Krista. Thank you, your family, for your son's service and for everything. We would love to have you come back on. I don't know, maybe a month, 2 months from now, just to touch base.
Would be great.
And to see how you are doing, how the book is progressing, and we'll take it from there.
Yes.
I would love it, and I love your show. This is perfect. I wish more people in my area were listening to it.
Yes. Well, after the show, we will send to the folks that I've been working with in your behalf. We uploaded on iHeart. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be shared everywhere. Good. So,
thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Seriously.
You're welcome. Thank you, Krista. It's really been a pleasure speaking with you. And again, thank you for your family, your son, and your son's service.
You're welcome. And to all those kids out there in the military and their moms and dads, really a shout out to all of them. I know what they do, and it's awesome.
Definitely. Well, we will be sending Facebook friend requests, and to keep in touch about Big Hearted Charlie Runs the Mile, because it doesn't end right here. We want to thank you once again.
Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Very, very interesting.
You know what? It's a much heavier topic.
Oh, yeah.
Because, neither of us know anything about this.
No.
We saw the Gold Star dad during the presidential candidacy. I'm at a loss for words.
It's kind of like what you started speaking about at the beginning of the conversation. She could have gone a couple of ways with this.
Yes.
She could have, taken the loss of her son and done negative things with her life, or just drowned in sorrow.
Right. Or
blamed someone else, or taken it in a completely different direction. But obviously she didn't do that. She took it in a more positive way. And it's like she said, she's keeping her son alive.
It's true.
And he's having an effect on many, many more people now than he maybe would have had it before.
That is true. So that was a great first guest. A couple of minutes, we have our next guest coming up. I wanted to segue really quick.
That up to, hey, I do host my own radio show, but I like to listen to other shows. One of the other shows I like to listen to is on Saturdays. That's What She Said Sports. That's out of Buckhead, Atlanta, AM 920. with Nicole Monique and BG. They had a wonderful guest on this past week, Mr. Eric Gray from Catalyst Sports. And he's the adaptive sports specialist with veteran programs. I mean, and it's all about discussing and empowering others by providing the highest quality of adaptive sports to the disabled community. So without further ado, it's my pleasure. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. As with all of our guests, I want to thank you for taking the time out for our live show to join us during the evening. I mean, there's a million and one things that you could be doing right now, but you're here with us virtually, and we definitely appreciate it. And we appreciate all the good works that you do. I will go on mute because I want you to tell the story of how Catalyst Sports came about.
Okay, absolutely. Like you said, my background is in recreation and adaptive sports, and I just finished working in Park City, Utah, and transferred and kind of changed jobs into working at a VA hospital in Augusta, Georgia. And this was in an active duty rehab unit. So these were guys getting injured in Iraq and Afghanistan and coming back, and knowing that there was an overflow of veterans at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, we would start seeing those guys coming straight from overseas. So, and when these guys were coming back, a lot of them, they might have come back with no legs or a spinal cord injury or missing an arm or something like that, and there really weren't activities or opportunities for them to get involved again and kind of use recreation and leisure, which is, I think, is a big important piece in all of our lives. Really an opportunity to do that. So when I was there at the VA, I started an adaptive kayaking program, adaptive golf program. And when I say adaptive, it's pretty much taking a regular activity and making it so that someone that might be, missing an arm or can't stand up can still swing a golf club or still paddle with one arm, just based off different types of adaptations. So I did that for 5 years and just saw the impact that it made. And I thought, man, if I can do this in a small place like Augusta, Georgia, imagine what I could do in Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta, started Catalyst Sports when we took 3 disabled veterans, amputees, and Andrew Sullins and Nate Watson and a couple other guys. We took them up the Grand Teton out in Jackson, Wyoming. So there's 13,000 foot peak, and summited on 9/11 in 2012. And that was kind of our way of saying, this is who we are, this is what we do, and now we want to provide this opportunity to anyone else with any other type of disability.
Eric, that is awesome. That is awesome. I want to get into it before we start talking the technology behind it. And even if we don't get to it, I think we want to post something on the Late Night Parent site. But tell us about what's happening this weekend in Atlanta.
Okay, absolutely. So this weekend we're having a fundraiser. It's called Pints for Patriots. So Atlanta has this huge, it's called the Peachtree Road Race. Something like 60,000 people come out and run 6 miles down Peachtree Road. And then following that, kind of where the race started, there's a restaurant called Meehan. And it's just an opportunity to come out and meet some of the veterans that we work with and some of the veterans that climb with us. We're gonna have barbecue and beverages and just a good time to hang out on the 4th of July. And then all the proceeds Meehan's is donating to Catalyst Sports so that we can continue with this initiative of helping our veterans.
Excellent. So right now, Catalyst Sports is available in Atlanta, Nashville, Charlotte, Chattanooga, and Knoxville. Those are the locations. Like, you have satellite offices there, or you put together your related services there. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're based out of Atlanta. That's kind of where we got started, but more people just saw like what we did, and they're like, we have a climbing gym. Why can't we provide this opportunity? And what's great about these climbing gyms is they're a good, safe learning environment. As opposed to taking someone outside for the first time, you have to worry about the elements and the rocks and all that. So it's a good training ground, and so people came to us and said, "Hey, we want to do what you're doing. What does that take? We love how you're structuring everything. Like, can we start a chapter?" And so pretty much it's just been volunteers, whether they're physical therapists or occupational therapists in the hospital. We work with kids and adults as well. So we've had teachers come up and say, "Hey, my kids would love this. Let's get something going up here in Knoxville or in Charlotte." And so that's kind of how we've expanded. Just people really interested in providing this activity that, for the most part, had not been provided to people with disabilities prior to this.
Are you able to speak to the adaptive technology that you guys have put together? So let's say if someone is missing a limb, and they are still able to get up there and climb, or some type of simulation of that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about kind of using their abilities. So whatever abilities they do have, and kind of allowing them to push themselves to the max. So a lot of times with someone with an amputation, the way their foot is their foot is meant to bend, so that when you walk, you're just like our ankles and feet, they bend and makes a nice easy gait. But when you're climbing, you wear these stiff climbing shoes. You want to really put a lot of pressure on the toe, so that you can really get some good friction and really stand on that foot. So essentially, there's specific climbing feet that are rigid that you can essentially unscrew the current foot that someone has on, take it off, put on a climbing foot, and now they trust that foot and they're able to move forward with that. There's another piece of adaptive equipment, and it's actually called the Wellman system. So Mark Wellman was a ranger out in Yosemite National Park. He fell off a 100-foot cliff, broke his back, and said he'd never climb again. Well, one of his buddies said, "We're going to climb again," and he made this rig where essentially his friend would go up ahead of him and drop a rope, and then he would do a pull-up to get up the rope. So over and over again, he did over 4,000 pull-ups over 8 days and made it to the top of El Cap, just an iconic mountain. And so we've taken that, we've added some pulleys so that for those that aren't as buff as this guy that can pull his body weight up, 4,000 times, we can make it so you only pull up a fifth of your body weight. So again, if you only have one arm, or if you're missing your legs, or you have a spinal cord injury, or whatever that is, we've found ways to adapt so that you can use on your own power, equipment to help you make it to the top.
Excellent, Eric. Real briefly, can you talk about the partnerships like Play Sports America, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Shepherd Center, Stone Summit Climbing and Fitness Center? Briefly talk about the partnerships they have with Catalyst Sports.
Okay, absolutely. So Stone Summit is, for a while, the largest indoor climbing gym in the nation, and they actually just built a second one in Atlanta. And so they've really opened up their doors. They allow us to climb there at an extremely discounted rate. And they're just happy to make their gym as, accessible and open to everyone. So that's kind of our climbing gym. And then Children's Healthcare of Atlanta has one of the top rehab, facilities in the country. Shepherd Spinal Center, they've been, number one, number two in the country for a long time, for treating, people with spinal cord injuries and traumatic brain injuries. And then Blaze Sports America is another, it's an adaptive sports program that came out of the '96 Olympics. So they've been around for a long time. And so these are well-established organizations that kind of saw what we were doing. They said, "Hey, our patients, or our clients would love to engage in this. We'd love to partner with you. We'd love to, provide, this opportunity for our clientele." And we said, absolutely. We'd love. Outreach is one of the most important pieces, because if people don't know, I mean, if you're in a wheelchair, you really don't think about climbing. So unless someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, there's this climbing program for you," then you're probably not going to go out and pursue it. So we have this great relationship with all these hospitals, where people just come out, they get excited, and then the word spreads like wildfire.
I got to tell you, you really need to be commended on the good works that you are doing. You and your colleagues, your executive team that is also, pressing along with this with your company. I'm at a loss for words, because that's really making the moves to make a difference. So I appreciate having you on. Last question I have for you is, so you're heavy in Atlanta and Tennessee and Charlotte, North Carolina. Where's the next location that you're thinking about?
We've I heard rumor has it they're building a gym in Birmingham, so that'll take care of Alabama, and we're doing a climb in Kentucky. So we do outdoor climbs as well. So we start inside, we go outside. Lexington, Kentucky's building a gym, and they're interested. And then there's some other organization like ours. So there's actually one in New York. It's called the Adaptive Climbing Group, and they climb out of Brooklyn Boulders. And I think they have something, I think, in Philadelphia as well. And then there's Paradox Sports, which is in Colorado. So those are kind of the other two programs. So we feel there's plenty in the Southeast to keep us busy. So whenever a gym goes up, if ever anyone is interested in saying, how can I do this? How can I host this? Send us an email, give us a phone call, go to our website, see what it's all about. We're more than happy to help people just empower themselves. Because once they realize, a lot of times they put a restriction on themselves. They're like, well, I've been told I can't climb because I only have one arm. So why would I even try that? And then they come out and they successfully climb and they become, very proficient at climbing. Then they think to themselves, well, if I can do this, what else can I do? What else have I been limiting myself to because of what other people have said, it's probably not a good idea to try. So we're just all about, building that community and allowing everyone to be a part of it.
Definitely. Eric, I want to give you a round of applause for the great work that you guys are doing.
And thanks for letting me come on and kind of share, my passion and my vision for what we're doing in the community and talking a little bit about Pints for Patriots.
Get your wardrobe ready for summer during the annual Venus Memorial Day event. For a limited time, shop the hottest styles of the season and earn $40 to use on your next purchase when you spend $100 or more. Visit Venus.com to use the promo code SUN21 to save today.
This July 4th. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Eric, you're always welcome. Last question is, tell us the ways to get in contact with you about Catalyst Sports. So what I'm looking for is social media, whether, your Twitter handle, your Facebook page. Let the folks know.
Absolutely. So it's Catalyst Sports, CATALYST Sports. So Facebook, // Catalyst Sports, Twitter, Catalyst Sports, and then our website is Team Catalyst. So teamcatalyst.org. So those are different ways that you can find us. We're out there on Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook and anything else we can get into. So.
Upstate now too?
Yes, sir.
You are like working magic behind the scenes to get us our listeners all across the globe.
It's just the more and more that you talk, and Dr. Michelle talks, and I'm just working behind the scenes.
The puppet master.
Some may say. Richie V, a lot to cover this week. Dr. Michelle is not in the building. She's celebrating her niece, Ashley, who was on the show about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
She attends Princeton. It's her birthday, so happy birthday once again to Ashley. I guess we'll jump right into it. Rich, like many African Americans of my generation, and of my generation is also your generation.
Yep.
As a New Yorker in my 40s, I grew up without a gun in the house.
Yes, especially depends where. Especially if you lived in the 5 boroughs, having
Correct.
a firearm in the home, unless you were employed in some kind of either the police or a protective agency, or you were a store owner and it could prove that you were using lots of cash back and forth to the bank. It was next to impossible to get a firearm, especially a pistol, within the 5 boroughs.
To my parents, gun ownership was politically unacceptable, but more morally wrong. And a lot of times, along with that, there was some form of trouble or tragedy. But Rich, during that same timeline, many folks in the South had a different tradition.
Yes, completely different tradition. In the South, having a gun is just like having pocket change. I mean, it is. Let's face it. I mean, besides the fact that in the South, we'll go along with long arms as well. You go to hunting, and hunting is just a part of life in the South and in the West and pretty much everywhere except the coasts. But also, in the South, having a handgun for protection is, you wouldn't walk out the house without it.
So in the South, it's a different tradition, and where Black families, many of them fresh from the farms and hunting rifles and sport, to an extent with self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
Many gun owners buy their first guns and begin practicing at the gun range,
Right.
wondering if the thought process was perhaps the Second Amendment is the Black man's ultimate sign of full citizenship.
That sounds like it should be. I mean, granted, we're all citizens anyway, and there's all kinds of debate over the Second Amendment itself. But every citizen of the United States has the right to bear arms.
That is true. And for the previous 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
I heard one side saying they're going to take our guns away.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, he's going to take our guns. Well, he's out of office now.
Yes, he is.
So there was something that happened. There were a couple of big events. One, Donald J. Trump becoming elected president.
Yep.
And the incident that was streamed across the world, Philando Castile,
Yes.
Black gun owner, card-carrying member.
Yep. Legally carrying a firearm at the time of the event.
And I thought it was apropos to bring on a fellow African-American NRA, card-carrying member, Mr. Ian McDonald. So, Ian, want to welcome you to the show.
Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear. How you doing?
Excellent.
So
Excellent. I just want to, before you go into it, I want to discuss, just briefly lay something out there.
okay.
That was very germane to a comment that you made earlier. Individuals were screaming and crying that they're going to take our guns, but gun ownership actually skyrocketed during the Obama years.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
It really did.
Yes, it did.
So quite to the contrary, the Smith & Wesson, Springfield, they actually would prefer if President Obama remained in office because they sold more units.
Yep. There were more licenses applied for through the FBI background check in those 8 years, in each of those 8 years, than ever before.
More important than background checks and licenses to carry, because there's a distinction between a license to carry and the ability to purchase firearms.
Yes, that's
Okay.
true.
In many states, you don't even need your license to purchase a firearm. You can purchase because you are a registered resident of that state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to carry your gun, and let's go another direction. You have some states that are considered open carry states,
Right.
where there's no need to even apply for a firearm license. If you're carrying your weapon exposed, you're within your rights.
Right.
So let's not even count the applications for concealed carry permits. Let's just talk gun sales.
Right.
Gun
Well,
sales Boom. Yeah.
That's true. Well, even when you make that pistol purchase, just the sale, not even the concealed carry permit, but you still got that FBI background, the background check at purchase time.
Yes,
which
that you get. Yes,
and that's the
which
number.
I'm all for.
Yes, I agree. By the way, I am also a card carrying NRA member myself, and so I fully understand the point you're making and those issues, because it's true that sales went up, people were scared, they bought more guns. But so as an African American, for some Black gun owners, it's a tough question. And that question being, can African Americans be reasonably expect to be covered by the Second Amendment in a country where, let's face it, there's still plenty of racist rhetoric, racist attitudes, racist actions? What do you think? Can we feel that we can honestly be covered and protected and be able to exercise our rights under the Second Amendment?
Okay, well, the ability to do something and the right to do something are two different things.
Completely.
As a United States citizen, you have the right to bear arms. You have the right, according to your state, city, local jurisdiction, you have the right to every right that's available to any other person. Now, the ability to utilize that right, or to the ability to exercise that right, is all in the hands of the law enforcement of that particular area.
Right.
That's where it gets kind of sticky. And there are several videos online where this is very clearly evident. Where one in particular, there was a white gentleman, and he said, "I'm going to walk down the street with the AR-15 in a sling on my back." He walks. The police they come to him and they talk to him, but the approach that they came to him with was as if he wasn't a threat.
Right.
But then now the Black gentleman did the same thing. The officer stood back about maybe 15 yards, exited his vehicle, holstered his weapon.
Here we go.
Pointed his weapon at the guy and made him lay down on the ground.
I'm familiar with the video.
Before he even approached him. So it's the perception is where the problems come in. Because again, it's a law is a law is a law. But the perception of the law in the hands of the individuals who are there to enforce the law is where the problems come in. And that's just a whole nother ball of wax that we can sit here talking about forever.
Right.
But let's just try to stay on topic. That's where the issues come into play.
I agree.
So I have a listing here that the Washington Post has found that unarmed Black men are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than unarmed white men. But there are no...
Perception again.
Say it again?
Perception.
Okay.
The perception is... Now, I hate to keep cutting you off.
No. Go ahead.
All right. Here's the thing. If a law enforcement officer stops a vehicle and he approaches the vehicle, it's the perception that he takes is how he's going to approach that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's going to approach the vehicle. Again, I'm just speaking generally. I'm not speaking specifically. I'm not trying to paint broad brush law enforcement because I have a lot of family in law enforcement, which is very funny. But they approach the car driven by or containing Black individuals as if they are the threat. But their own FBI statistic shows that who is more likely to shoot a police officer?
Right.
A white male.
Right. No, it's true. It's true. It's perceptions.
And when you put those statistics, when they tell you a statistic, African American is 90% chance getting killed by another African American. It's true because you will tend to get killed or accosted by the people you're surrounded by.
Right.
But the flip side to that is 81 point something % of white people are killed by other white people.
Right.
But that's the other side of the coin that's not put out there with the statistic. So I mean, it's very interesting where you sit and you allow somebody to talk and you say, okay, well, you said this, but here's the rest of that statement that you failed to give.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's all in perception because an officer has no clue of the intention of an individual who he stopped. So I have all respect for them being apprehensive and being cautious because you have no idea who you're approaching. But if it's showing that you're approaching a certain demographic differently than another demographic, that's the pure definition of bias.
Right. And that's the issue that we have at its core.
That is the exact issue.
But that again,
I mean, I'm a black guy. I've got into more arguments with black people than white people.
right?
But but because I grew up around black people, so it was very, very unlikely for me to have an argument with a white guy growing up in East New York, Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. It's just the reality of it.
No, that's understood. That's understood. Hey, you're listening to Late Night Parents. Rich Valdez, Ted Hicks. We're speaking with Ian McDonald, and we are talking about the Second Amendment.
But we can segue into issues with firearms or the reality is a gun, a rifle, a knife, a brick, anything by itself is not deadly. It's the intention of the individual using it that makes it a deadly weapon.
That's true.
If we just for some strange reason was able to snap our fingers and every firearm on the planet disappeared, stabbings would go up.
Right.
people are going to do these things. If we took away all the knives, then people would start hitting each other with maces and clubs because that's what we did. It's just now the firearm is where it's at.
As Ian, as a wrap up question,
yes,
I think one of the questions we initially asked. So, as a question to you, as a black gun owner, does the Second Amendment apply to African Americans? Yes or no?
It most certainly does apply to us. It most certainly does apply to us, and it is incumbent on any individual that wants to exercise his Second Right Amendment to go about it the right way and demand that his right or her right is respected. It's in black and white, for lack of a better word, that's a better term. Yeah, it's literally in black and white. So if you go into court and you say, well, pursuant to statute, blah, 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 I have the right to do this. It's up to them, when I say them, meaning the people telling you it's not your right, to prove you wrong. Now, again, that's in the court of law. But then now, in the real world, the perception of individuals dictates what happens.
Right.
Which is totally contrary to law itself.
Right. Law is not supposed to be based upon perception. Law is based upon the rule and the actions taken thereof. Exactly. But if you look, it's all over the news. It's all over the internet. It's all in the paper. And you see for yourself the bias of the legal system. So theoretically, yes, it does apply to us. But the application of that law, the application of that right, is where the difference lies. Yeah.
And individuals who continually flout these laws against you and are allowed to get away with it is why it continues to take place. Nobody's going to change unless they either A, want to, or they're B, forced to. And if these officers or if the legal system isn't forced to, does it want to change? It's not going to.
Gotcha.
So all of these things kind of segue and they lead to bigger problems and bigger issues.
No, that's fair. That's a fair answer. I will tell you this much.
Yes.
This is the first time that you're on Late Night Parents, but definitely, I think this is a great starting point because this conversation, this dialogue needs to continue. Because I mean, as you know, you and I have been friends 20 plus years, and this topic has come up privately amongst us and some of our friends. So I like I said, I thought it was appropriate for you to provide subject matter on it because, you know, it's kind of like a lot of times people are just speaking from emotion.
Right.
But we definitely want to thank you for joining us, Ian, and we look forward to having you on in the very near future.
Most definitely, most definitely. And before I go, I would just like to leave with I am definitely a proponent of people expressing or exercising their Second Amendment rights. Second Amendment rights. But there also has to be the responsibility involved with it.
Yes.
I myself, I've taken NRA courses. I've gotten certified. I practice and utilize safe methods of handling firearms. Anybody around me, I make sure they're doing it, or I'm like, you can't handle this firearm around me.
Right.
Because along with a right comes a responsibility. And the responsibility to maintain your firearms within the laws that are prescribed to it. And if you do that, then I'm all for every and anybody who is legally able to obtain firearms. If you're on a no-fly list, no, you shouldn't have one. If you have mental issues, no, you should not have one. It's that simple. If you're a career criminal, you shouldn't have one.
Right.
So gun laws really should be about common sense.
You hate to use that word.
To furthering an agenda.
Yeah, you hate to have to use that common sense.
It's about furthering an agenda now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Ian, we want to thank you once again.
Thank you. I appreciate coming on.
All right.
It's been a pleasure, Ian.
It's always a pleasure, Mr. Hicks.
Take care, brother.
All right. You have a great day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
So that was Ian McDonald talking about, I mean, it's a pretty heavy discussion.
Oh, it's a serious discussion because it affects, and it has such different attitudes and outlooks depending on where you are in the country.
That's true. And like I said, it's during those 8 years, a lot was politicized.
Things were done,
but I don't know. I'll leave it there. I think I foresee a lot of conversations in the future with you and Mr. Ian.
I mentioned earlier, my wife was having a moment after looking at the news and seeing everything that was going on, and just started writing this poem regarding life, regarding racial injustice and things we've been experiencing recently. So I would just like to share that with you and the rest of our listeners.
I'm so tired by Linda Valdez. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of turning on my television or opening my social media pages and seeing the killing of another Black man. I'm so tired of reading the posts of people disparaging the Black community for their outrage and for the way they protest, whether silently taking a knee, marching, or downright civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is a huge part of American history. Many of the gains that we have been achieved happened in part because of civil disobedience. I'm so tired that on my social media feed, there's nothing but silence when another unarmed or licensed to carry Black man or even a child is killed. Just once, I was hoping that maybe someone would say, how awful, would question what's going on, would offer sympathy to a family or a community, but none of that. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of their use of the word ignorant leveled towards protesters and those who have been killed. I'm so tired that they think they can tell Black people in America how we should be responding to an outrage that hasn't manifested itself in their communities. I'm so tired that these educated people so freely espouse their opinions disguised as facts. I'm so tired that so many think it's okay to say what they want without regard to others, yet let the reverse happen and they lose their minds. I'm so tired of hearing folks say that violence is not American and not the way to get results, yet that's what this America was founded on. I'm so tired. I wish they would take their blinders and rose-colored glasses off and see the truth. I took my rose-colored glasses off a long time ago, and what I opened my eyes to is reality, an ugly but true reality in America. I am so tired. I am so tired of smiling when I feel like yelling. I'm so tired of being the go-to Black friend when an associate calls them out on their racist views. I am so tired of being silent. My silence ends today. The truth is, the New World, this United States of America, was formed out of ethnic and racial violence that from the first time European settlers stepped foot on this land, a land that was already occupied by existing Native Americans, yet through violence amounting to genocide, nearly an entire population of people was killed, and the land was suddenly discovered by someone else. This violence is a part of America's democratic history. I am so tired. The narrative that was spoon-fed to all of us as children about the nice pilgrims helping the quote-unquote savage Indians and the wonderful celebratory Thanksgiving dinner is a fallacy perpetuated to maintain someone else's supremacy. I am so tired. Violence in America is not the democratic way. That's funny. Tell that to the many Black people, Africans, dragged to this country in inhumane conditions in the belly of ships, forced to live and work as slaves. Slavery was violence. That is a part of America's violent democratic history. I am so tired. The origins of America's own original homegrown terrorist group, the Ku Klux Klan, the Night Riders who threatened, maimed, hung, shot, killed, and burned Black people, basically for sport, while a blind eye was turned, is all a part of America's violent democratic history. I am so tired. This country was built on violence, savagery, and racism. Its gains were secured off the backs of those who they controlled through violence. I am so tired. I could mention the violence and internment of innocent Asians, but I won't because, well, at least there was an acknowledgement of a wrong and reparations paid. I am so tired. I am so tired of folks talking the low percentage of Black people owning property. Yet they forget that Blacks were shut out of that process for decades through the systemic racism written into FHA and other documents. I am so tired. I am so tired of folks talking about the number of Black people in prisons and the number of Black people residing in ghettos, yet they fail to talk about how the mass incarceration of nonviolent minor drug offenses sent millions of Black men and women to prison, destroyed their families, and eviscerated their communities, yet whites who did the same thing were not arrested or imprisoned at the same rate or for the same length of time. I am so tired. I am so tired of hearing how Black people should get over slavery, the civil rights movement, and Jim Crow. Now that's funny because the fallout of all of that still exists today. Just because you don't talk about it or because you are not personally affected by it doesn't mean that it does not exist. I am so tired. I am so tired of reminding my sons of what to do to hopefully stay alive in this post-civil rights America. But I still have to, because someone who carries fear, ignorance, or racism within them, may not see my sons for the well-raised, well-educated young men that they are. I am so tired. This Southern-born 60s child with a radical spirit is tired. If you didn't watch your grandmother who worked as a domestic go in the back door of a home and hear the young child call her by her first name while she referred to him as Mr., then you can't tell me about respect. If you haven't been followed in a store and watched while shopping, you don't have a right to tell me how to act or feel about anything. If you haven't had the police watch you in a parking lot after your son's basketball game ended for 10 whole minutes, and as soon as the last white child left, zoom his car so close to you that you thought he was going to run down your child, only to ask you, what are you folks doing over here? And interrogate you like you were a criminal, then you can't tell me how to react to the police. If you haven't had to remind your kids that just because of the color of their skin, they may be perceived a certain way by some people and that they can't do the same things as their friends because somehow if they do it, it's criminal. Though if their friends do it, it's just kids being kids, then you can't tell me how to raise my children. If you never had a well-meaning friend tell you, well, that her parent doesn't like Black people because of an incident that they encountered once with a Black person, but he likes you and somehow make that okay, then you can't tell me about racism. You don't hold an entire race of people in contempt because of the action of one. If you haven't had a supervisor on a work outing to the beach try to reassure you that it's okay that you can't swim because she read in a book that Blacks can't swim because of how they're built, then you don't have a right to tell me what is ignorant. I am so tired. I am so tired of the ignorance spewed by people who are more outraged by an athlete for failing to stand for an anthem than they are when a person is killed. I am so tired that they haven't removed their blinders. I can no longer remain silent. Silence is blind acceptance, and I removed my blinders a long time ago.
So we'll give them a few minutes. But basically, we're going to talk about Confessions of a Librarian. And I think we have our guests, Barbara and Michael Foster, on right now. So we're going to welcome them on. Hello, is this Barbara and Michael Foster?
Yes, it certainly is.
Hello, and how are you doing?
Well, it's been a mixed day. We just got back from Vermont, where we were all summer, to New York, where we lived the rest of the year. And in our lovely little Chelsea apartment, where absolutely everything was broken. The building's front door, our apartment's front door, my internet, my TV, you name it, it was broken. So maybe we should talk about a broken marriage. I don't know.
So, Michael,
and we're still talking to each other.
Right.
The nice thing is we're still talking to each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Despite that.
Okay. Well, I want to say it's a pleasure to have both of you on. We're talking with Barbara and Michael Foster.
Right.
And Barbara, I guess you're credited with being the author of Confessions of a Librarian.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was a librarian at Hunter College for a number of years, and I was hidden away in the stacks and given kind of boring work. And so I started writing erotic poetry, and I decided to live the life and walk the talk. And so I started to travel around the world and gather information for Confessions of a Librarian. And I confess,
Okay. I want to take a step back and say and talk about the broken apartment because we have a couple of minutes and say, was it broken physically, like the door pushed in, or was it just
not any kind of violence, just stuff that didn't work, but all at once.
Okay.
You have to think about your karma. Like that.
Oh my goodness. Well, yes, it's like I said, it's a pleasure to have both of you on. I believe I was with Tony and Jenny back in August, maybe July/August, before you guys went away on vacationing for the summer. Wanting to get you guys on to talk with you and just spend a few moments with you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, we don't really take vacations. We go to Vermont to write, which is typical, in New York in the summer is very noisy, to put it mildly. And we get away and we do a lot of work.
Michael's working on a huge book that's after a book that came out 20 years ago called Three in Love, the history of the Ménage à Trois. And he's writing a big book now that is much bigger and many more kinds of relationships and new marriage and new love relationships that have happened in the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, it's not just me. There's three of us collaborating, really. I get the sort of final draft, but
he puts together and makes it.
When I was back in student of history, working on a PhD, I was always annoyed by history seemed to be what the king so-and-so did or which army ran over which poor country. And it never interested me. I wanted to know more personal things. And wasn't there a history of love, a history of romance, even a history of adultery? So with Three in Love, we took the famous love triangle, without which, for a long time anyway, you couldn't make a Hollywood movie without one. And we dealt with that, and we dealt with not its opposite, but what it sometimes led to, which was a ménage à trois, a more friendly three-way relationship. And the book was quite a sensation when it came out in the 90s. Oddly enough, at the same time that the Clinton hijinks were being, in the press, and also, what's her name, Princess Diana was running around. So we couldn't quite meet that competition, I must say.
So Barbara and Michael, so let's get into open relationships. What are they? I guess textbooks wise, we're looking at non-monogamy, but give us your description, your definition of your open relationship.
Barbara, you want to do it?
I was thinking about this before we called, and I think that there's a long history in America of divisiveness, of warring factions. I mean, in the 19th century, there was the Civil War and the War of Secession, depending on where you lived. And then the divide was a racial divide. And even though that still exists, now there's a sexual divide. And if you look at some of the people who were running for presidency, you'll see that some of them from the Old South are participating in this sexual divide, which is defining marriage, defining love, defining sexuality in terms of their beliefs. And I think America is very divided now, not so much, well, in a number of ways, racially, but also economically and sexually. So as far as who are we in this landscape of American argumentation and debate, we have had a marriage that's very special. And we made our marriage very special by being friends and staying friends and having freedom, and at the same time working together and cooperating, and to the point of even inviting in a third person. So I think we're a very unusual marriage.
Yeah, well, I'll put in a couple 2 cents. That is very interesting. You know, it strikes me as a good subject for another book, The Sexual Divide.
No.
It really does.
Well, these long books that take years and years,
Yeah.
they are really incredible when they're finished, but they take a lot of work.
Well, the thing is, Barbara and I got married very young, and I mean very young. You know, 20, 21, and it was very traditional marriage and all that, and. You know, for several years, well, we were very excited. We were newlyweds and so forth. But after a while, we got curious what was life like. And we satisfied this curiosity in a number of ways, not just seeing other people. It was much more than that. And Barbara's book is her side of it. And it talks about all of the adventurous travel she did. And I must say, if you tried that today, if you tried to go to Egypt and cross the Sinai with the Bedouins to see Mount Sinai where Moses got the Ten Commandments, you'd wind up in heaven or hell. You wouldn't get through it. And a great deal of what she did and is reported in the book, you simply can't repeat.
Yeah, India, Argentina, places that were really fabulous and were very formative for me. And now very few women can travel alone.
Very few anybody, really. And I did other forms of travel. I learned Haitian Creole and I went to Haiti to study voodoo. And
really?
Yeah, when Papa Doc was in charge, it was great. When you have a dictator like that, they monopolize crime. You're never in danger because they're the criminals. And I'm serious. And I would walk around at any hour and go to all the ceremonies.
Well, he stayed with Papa Doc's dentist.
Yeah.
You can't get much of
well, that was another thing. Nobody messed with Papa Doc's dentist.
No.
So, but I did stuff like that, and she did stuff. And we basically would come back and we'd tell each other things about what had happened. What we never did, and I do want to bring this up, is cheat. That is lie about, any of this. And I was so struck by the whole Ashley Madison business, that the hacking revealed. And because the cheating of the people who wanted to cheat got cheated by Ashley Madison, because often there was nobody on the other end. And that's what the hell can you expect, And it's a bad business, lying, and there's a great deal of it, I'm sure.
I just want to jump in here and say, I mean, it's been noted, and I even had you on record, Michael. We're speaking with Barbara and Michael Foster, but had you on record saying studies that find that 5% of Americans in consensual non-monogamous relationships are lowballing reality. Half of all marriages end in divorce, and websites such as Ashley Madison that encourage cheating have millions of followers.
Yeah, they did. I don't know about what happened after that. And I don't know who did it, but that was quite. It just revealed the situation was, and there's other sites as well, of course, other cheating sites. But the heck was the sites? I mean, people have been cheating and doing adulterous things ever since the Bible, as the Bible tells us. And it's a bad business. That is a bad business. If you're going to stick to the rules, the old rules, and have a monogamous marriage, well, good for you. But if you have some curiosity, and if your thing in life is to write books, and by the way, Barbara and I continue to write books together. We've done a couple of biographies of really courageous women that have been translated into many languages.
The Secret Lives of Alexandra David Neal.
Yeah,
a woman Buddhist who went to Lhasa for the first time in 1924 when it was just Forbidden Journey.
Yeah.
It's another book of ours.
But the one that really is personal is Barbara's Confessions of a Librarian. Now, I don't know if I'll do something similar. I have no idea.
Our third person has written novels, and they are there is some menage a trois material in the novels. So it's affected all three of us very profoundly to share the New York art scene experience, or the art wars, I call it, where you really grind up your heart and your gut, and you create something, and you put it out there, and you hope it's accepted, and then the internet copies it. So a lot of it is happening that way.
Yeah, another thing I would bring up, the question of whether the rules are changing. Everything is changing. Everything's changing dramatically. Gay marriage is something I wouldn't have dreamed would get this kind of legalization. I knew very well it existed. We live in Chelsea and in Greenwich Village as well, and the gay neighborhoods, but I never thought it would get the legal recognition.
It's going to be a big battlefield for the presidential debate, and it's interesting, and it's tremendously worthwhile, of course. But who would have thought that so important a question, so intimate and so personal a question, could enter into a presidential race?
Yeah, that's really
I mean, really, this is people's private lives, you know?
True. Hey, guys, we're speaking with Barbara and Michael Foster. I have a question here from one of our listeners. What's the difference between an open relationship and being swingers?
Big
yeah. Well, we've never been swingers, so I really can't speak from experience. But from what I know, what I've heard and read and talked to people, swinging seems to be more of a suburban thing, and it's groups of people and who live in perhaps a neighborhood. And I know of we had some contact with the one in Ohio, and they were outside of Cincinnati in the suburb, and they all sort of knew each other, and they got together and they traded partners that night. And it's a very social thing that we've never had anything to do with. So I can't speak from experience.
Maybe you can think of open marriage as a big umbrella, and underneath that umbrella, it can be open in a number of ways.
Yeah.
It can be open by, for example, the extended family. The person who, I think what it can replace is an American tradition, which is throw out the old husband or throw out the old wife and get a new one. So if you have
like
an open,
a car,
if you have an open marriage, you can just keep on adding people. That's one way of doing it. And another way is people who don't marry at all, like three homosexual people who get together and are lifelong friends, or lifelong collaborators, or people who work together and who, over a period of their lives, have an intimate, important relationship with each other, whether they're married or not.
Yeah, and there's open marriage is just a very broad term. It can be on a consensual basis. It can work in a very kind of happy way, or it can be very tight and angry. And I just did a long chapter for the book I'm working on the Kennedys, Jack and Jackie, and God, that he was with another woman constantly, other women, a huge list of them, and she tolerated it, but it's not like she accepted it, but she sort of did.
She protected the presidency.
Yeah. But I mean, she was often very angry. So you have that possibility, certainly. Again, a lot of what we did was the need and search for adventure in general. And this is all in Barbara's Confessions of a Librarian. She had this very useful job, of course, but a kind of dull. And she would unfortunately get these long, lengthy sabbaticals, and she would travel here and there and do reports on libraries, but she would also really, really travel. And that's something I admire, because I'm not that adventurous personally.
So he's had a long-term relationship for many, many years with the same person. But I have a different style. I like to date, and I still do internet dating. I have a Facebook page Confessions of a Librarian, A Memoir of Love. That's the title of the book and the subtitle. And so you can find me there, Confessions of a Librarian, A Memoir of Love, Barbara Foster at Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read this really quick. I'm looking at various studies that appeared. I'm looking at one that appeared in the Journal of Human Sexuality. It states 70%. It talks about the following information on reactions to open relationships from couples involved in this activity. 70% claimed having no problems with jealousy. 25% acknowledge problems controlling jealousy. 59% claim to be happier than their non-swinging counterparts.
Well, that shows how misleading statistics can be.
Yeah.
I think jealousy is an issue that comes up with everybody.
Sure.
Every couple and every threesome and every foursome. And I mean, there's always this, why do you give this person more time or more energy or more love or more something or other than me? And people get into very ownership kind of feelings with a love relationship. And it's something that you have to deal with no matter what, whether it's an ex-spouse or whether it's a current lover or whatever, or a child or whatever.
I know we're short on time. I have a couple other questions that a few of our listeners, one person asked me to ask you, what happens when you start having feelings for one of the secondaries?
What do you mean, start having feelings? What do you mean?
Yeah, getting attached to, sure.
Well, that happens. That's life. Some people have lifelong attachments.
You don't have to have an open marriage to have that happen.
No.
I mean, that happens all the time, and people quarrel and divorce and marry someone else. I mean, it's very rare that you're going to have love for one person your whole life long, especially if you live a while. And so it is something that you have to deal with in life. It's one of the major questions, I think. And
I think just posing that question is, it shows that the person doesn't really understand that this involvement, whatever it is important. It's not like this is a one-night stand or something that you have with another person. This can be a friendship or a love relationship that opens up a new world for you. And then you have to do a balancing act. You have to make sure that the person you're married to is happy and is comfortable with the relationship that you have started with someone else, and that you are honest with yourself and with the other person too. Sometimes this can lead to a divorce, but hopefully it doesn't. It leads to a more larger and richer life.
We're speaking with Barbara and Michael Foster. I'm going to read another quote. The Fosters agree the openness and consideration of others' needs are the keys to their successful marriage. They live, love, and work together as authors and educators. And lastly, it states from Barbara, an open marriage is about more than affairs. And so tell me this much. Is this openness, this open relationship, this open marriage, is gaining popularity amongst, I would say nowadays than 20, 30 years ago, or is it about the same? It wasn't as talked about as much?
Oh, well,
what's your take?
Yeah, we have been studying such things, and more historically, but up through now as well. And certainly everything's changing. And one of the things that's, along with gay marriage, open marriage is definitely more, well, I can't say popular, that's the wrong word, but there's more of it. And I don't think people are quite ready to talk about that. And look, they weren't ready to talk about gay marriages till a few years ago. I think they'll start to talk about open marriage, and there will be some disagreement about just what it is. But it's not like the swingers at all. that was, as I said, that strikes me as a very suburban kind of thing. And whether it still goes on, I don't really know. But dealing with your marriage, and one way people deal with marriage now is they don't marry. They live together, they marry late, right. And so on. But I believe in marriage. I really do. It's worked out fine for me, and it's more than just some kind of commitment to a ceremony. It's having someone you really work for and with, and as far as I'm concerned, marriage is a lot easier than writing a book jointly. That's a tough one, let me tell you. You want to add to our quarrels? Try writing a book with someone.
Can we real briefly talk about the potential risks and rewards and having an open relationship?
Sure.
Yeah, go, Michael.
I think it does take a degree of sophistication, if you want. It takes a degree of good nature and of acceptance. And if you're a very uptight person, if you're a person who does play by strict rules that aren't your rules but have been taught to you in one way or another, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for you. You've got to have some leeway and some really kind feeling in general, and a very specific commitment to the other person, actually. Maybe more of a commitment than a traditional marriage.
Mm-hmm. Well,
good answer. Hey, if we could just wrap it up, because I know we're short on time. Best ways, Barbara, to find your book?
Oh, yeah. Amazon.com is a good way. Just you can search for Confessions of a Librarian, a memoir of loves.
It's digital as well as in print.
It's digital, yeah. And that's the best way. And find me on Facebook, too, if you want to join the conversation.
Gotcha. And Michael, best ways to get in contact with you?
Yeah, Facebook too. Mickey Stamler. That's a pseudonym of his, a pen name. Mickey, M-I-C-K-Y.
Yeah. Well, it's my mother's maiden name,
and you'll see pictures of all three of us at his page, Mickey Stamler, and actually a couple of pictures of on my page at Facebook too has the three of us. So. You'll be hearing about the three of us later when this book, this long book that we've been working on. He says this is a 10-year book. This book he's working on.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, well, it covers a lot of ground.
He does things in a big way. That's part of why I like him. He's very serious. He's a very serious, committed artist, and I have tremendous respect for it. And he was the one who really has taught both of us, the other woman and myself, about what it means to be an author, and a serious author, not just every 6 months a new book kind of author, but someone who really delves into a subject seriously and gives the respect to the reader that the reader deserves.
Yeah, if you're interested, or Three in Love is still available.
And there's another website too called 3lovestory.com. 3lovestory.com, and that's about the three of us and our books. I mean, the other woman has a lot of books too. So, and we were the ones that really started her, forced her to write books.
Barbara, Michael, I want to thank you guys for taking the time out tonight.
Thanks,
we want to
Ted.
give you a round of applause.
We're all a little hungry for ways to celebrate the summer, am I right? Luckily, Stop & Shop has everything you need to do just that, with premium cuts of meat, sustainably sourced seafood, and fresh veggies that can go right on the grill. Order ahead for delivery or pickup at stopandshop.com.
Tomorrow, I think I'll treat myself to McDonald's breakfast. And if I go to bed early, it's kind of like morning comes a lot faster deal.
There's a deal for every moment on the McDonald's $1, $2, $3 menu. Order ahead on the McDonald's app and get all your favorite breakfast items like sausage McGriddles, sausage McMuffin, and hash browns for just a few bucks. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
And good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com, where you can find our latest blogs, wikis. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and most part, you can listen to our archive podcast. That site again is latenightparents.com. And tonight, the featured guest for our show, it might be a name that you might know if you're in the tri-state area, but if you're outside of it, you might not know it yet, but hopefully very shortly you're going to get to know it. Speaking to Lou High's star player, Zed Key, who is out of Brentwood, Long Island. That's Long Island, New York, Suffolk, New York. So really excited about it. Zed, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Want to thank you for taking the time out. I know it's post Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was really good. Got to spend time with friends and family. Got to eat a little bit, so it was a fun time.
Okay. So hopefully not eating too much, because I know you're in the gym, a gym rat. So if your trainers are listening, I hope they don't work you too hard. So Zed, a lot of good news. I want to thank Tango. And you know, the power of the internet and the amount of people that you can meet over the internet, I tell you, has been the strength of latenightparents.com, because we meet a whole slew of people through Twitter. And Tango was kind enough to pass along your information, try to connect us together. And I know our people had to talk to your people and everything else like that. So I'm glad we're able to get this interview going. You know, any given day, it's always interesting to talk with an athlete, but definitely a young athlete who's getting ready to, you know, attend college, and there's a lot of big things that are on your mind. So I know you're attending Lutheran High School, and from what I can pull off the internet, there's been, you know, multiple offers and schools that are interested, and that's great. But I guess my first question for you is, you know, have you started the process of visiting schools? And if so, where have you gone or planning on you know, going?
I've started the process of visiting schools. I've been to Iona, Stony Brook, UMass, Rutgers, Florida, and Penn State, but I haven't taken any official visits yet. I'm planning on going to Seton Hall, Wisconsin, Cincinnati, and St. John's in the spring next year.
Okay. So I guess next question would be, is there any pressure to stay at home and go to a college close by?
No. I just want to go to a college where it's the best fit, where I fit in the best for like my playing style and stuff like that.
Okay. So Zed, who's the player you model your game after?
The player that I chose was Tobias Harris, because of his ability to shoot the basketball and post and handle the basketball and play multiple positions.
So Zed, you know, on the internet, I see you listed as a small forward. So I see you playing a three. I see you listed as a power forward. What do you consider yourself? Are you kind of like that hybrid type player who can play multiple spots?
Yes, because at my height in college, I'm not a center. So I have to work on my game and expand my game to become a 4 or 3. So to become a hybrid.
Okay.
Be a hybrid in college.
But so currently in high school, do you lean more towards a 3, small forward, or 4, or there's like or do you just go with the flow?
3/4, but mostly a 3.
Okay. What about like with you being a 3, playing a lot of 3, so ball handling skills, everything else like that are definitely up to par. I've seen I've seen your portfolio on the internet. Very, very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Zed, we're speaking with Zed Key from Lou High. You can reach Zed at, let me make sure I get it right, Zed Basketball 14. So Zed, who's your biggest influence?
My biggest influence is my parents. Because
excellent.
they do everything for me. They drive me to all my tournaments. They feed me. They clothe me. So they are my biggest influence. They sacrifice so much for me.
You know, Zed, I want to give you a slow hand clap because that's a question I've asked a lot of youth athletes, and I hear the craziest responses. And I got to tell you, sometimes I cringe also because I'm like, for any, younger athlete or anyone, any for in occasions when there's someone, a teenager who's, involved in collegiate sports and everything else like that, it's got to be mom or dad. So slow hand clap. Definitely proud for you. Proud that you gave that great answer because it's so important. Mom and dad are always there. They're always going to be involved up until the point where you can say, okay, mom and dad, I got it. So great answer.
Thank you.
So I got to ask you a question about tunes, about the type of music that you listen to. So what song is playing, whether on your iTunes or your Google Play? What song is in your headphones as you prepare yourself for a game?
Before a game, I like to listen to Lil Uzi Vert.
Okay.
He kind of has like a nice flow going towards his music, like the upbeat, high tempo, so it gets me energized for the game. And the song that I really listen to before games is it's called "Do What I Want" because it's really like upbeat. It's like really energetic, so it gets me hyped.
Okay. Outside of Little Uzi Vert, who else is there any like secondary, any type of backup type of artists that are in your playlist?
His NBA Youngboy.
Okay.
He's not like a fast rapper, but his lyrics, they mean something. So I like what he raps about.
Okay. So tell me, what does your typical day consist of? Like you wake up in the morning, give it to me, during the weekday, give it to me on the weekend. What does your typical day consist of?
During the weekday, sometimes I wake up at 5 in the morning for a shooting workout with my trainer, Andrew. Then I come home, eat breakfast, which is really important. Then go to school. After school, I have practice. Then sometimes I go to strength and conditioning at Heat Sports in Bohemia. And then I eat, because that's really important also, and do homework and then go to bed. And on the weekends, I get up sometimes at 5 in the morning, again, to go work out. Then I have practice at Lou High for the basketball team. Then I come home, eat, and spend time with my family.
Okay. Once again, good answer. Good answer. Solid. Tell me about the difficulties of kind of balancing school, basketball, and being a teenager.
As I transferred schools,
okay,
so the workload has increased tremendously. I have homework, a lot of homework every night. So I'll be up until like 9:30, 10 o'clock, finishing homework, projects, essays. So I just have to find the time, or not find, like balance the time to do the homework and study. Time management. It was hard for me at the beginning, but
okay,
I've balanced it out. Now I've gotten used to it. So I know how to manage my time.
Okay. So is like the homework, the additional homework, since you've transitioned from Brentwood to Lou High, is it like a lot of online homework, or is it like the conventional where you got to sit there and do research, or?
It's both. Like sometimes I'll have homework online. The teacher will assign it in Google Drive, and I got to do it online. Sometimes they give us paper, pen and paper. You got to write, and sometimes just you got to study and just write out stuff for the next project or the next essay that you got to do. That you do in like a month or something.
Okay. Do you run into like a lot of pressure with like hanging out with your friends, since a lot of your time is, you're on a schedule every day, whether it's, you dealing with the weekdays with school, with training and everything else like that? Did any of your friends like you grew up with are like, hey, Zed, when are you going to have time to hang out and stuff like that? Do you ever run into those type of issues?
No, not really, because they know how hard I work to go. They know my dream of what I would like to be an NBA basketball player. So they support like what I'm doing, and they know that I'm usually at the gym somewhere or at this tournament playing games at this place doing something. So they support me, and they know that sometimes I can get really busy.
Gotcha. I guess a question that will be coming up next year is, who would be your dream prom date?
That's a good question. Prom date. Wow. I really got to think for this one.
All right. You want me to table it and we can come back to it?
Yes. I have to think about that question. That's it.
All right. Tell me the best piece of advice your parents have given you during this journey.
They said to me after a game, work hard in everything you do because you can't get it back. You can never get that play or second back. So say like you don't get that rebound or don't get that steal. You can't get that play back. It already happened. So
I will tell you this much, that's some sage advice that they've given you. It's like you're going to go hard regardless. But like you said, if that play or something doesn't go your way, you can't harp on it. You got to keep moving. You got to keep pressing forward. That's true. That's true. We're talking with Zed Key. You can find him on Twitter at ZedBasketball14. This is Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. Zed, what players, pro or college, have given you advice on basketball, life, etc.?
Two players, Tobias Harris and Shaq. They both said to me, always listen to your parents. They have lived through the time that you're going through before, and they know what they're doing. So they're not trying to give you the wrong information to steer you off the wrong path.
That's true. Like I said,
the right path.
Yes, they are true. I mean, I'll tell you, it's so true. You got to listen to your parents because they've been there. They might not have been where you are training in the gym, but they've been there, being a teenager and going through this course called life. So I'm going to double back with you and say, and you can say, you know what, I'm going to hold off on that. Dream prom date? You want to answer that question, or you want to, maybe we could table it for a conversation in the future? I'll answer that question now. Oh, okay. So the question was, who would be your dream prom date? Beyonce. I was gonna say Beyonce is the default answer. Oh my goodness. So as we get ready to wrap up, do you have any I guess words of wisdom for any other athletes that are, either about to take this journey, or any younger athletes that you've seen out there? Any words of wisdom for them? Always work hard. Put the time in, because it will repay you in the future. It will come back to you in the future. So keep working hard, and you'll see it. Results. Gotcha. Hey, Zed, I want to definitely thank you for taking the time out post Thanksgiving to join us here on Late Night Parents. We're definitely in your corner, and I'm telling you, I'm definitely going to take my son to one of these games. And when you're closer by, either at the Barclays Center or I think you're going to be at Adelphi in January. So we'll definitely be rooting for you and be in your corner and all the above. Other than that, what are the best ways of getting in contact with you? If anyone wants to follow you on social media. My Instagram is I'm the Dunkers Zed 14. Okay. And Twitter is ZedBasketball14. All right. Zed Key, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for having me. All right, take care. You too.
Red Week is the largest online market. Valerie Hines, who is the customer service manager for Red Week. Red Week is the largest online marketplace for renting, buying, and selling timeshares. So, Valerie, wonderful to meet you. Tell me all about Red Week.
Wow, well, it's great to meet you too. Red Week, we've been around for a while. We're not a very well-known name, but we've been around since 2002. Our founder, it's kind of funny how we came about. Our founder, his name is Randy Conrad. He's a great guy, but he was really interested in timeshares, or the accommodations that you could get in timeshares, but was very hesitant about them. Because they kind of have that stigma, everybody thinks timeshare, eek, scary, scary thing. But just what you get with a timeshare is so much more than a regular hotel room. And so he actually had talked to timeshare owners and found that timeshare owners could not use their timeshare. And so he developed Red Week as sort of a community or a marketplace for timeshare owners to come and rent out their unused timeshares to people who wanted to stay in them. So
that's pretty exciting, because I'm going to tell you, I am not a timeshare owner. I was pretty close to becoming one, but I got to tell you, it was kind of annoying speaking with other owners and finding, we really want this week, but either it's going at a premium, or we can't have this week, or here are, depending on the package that you purchase, these are the dates that are available for you. And they're never usually good for the family, because, let's say the family, you try to plan it around when the kids are out from school, where you could say, okay, here's 1 or 2 weeks for the year where we're looking to go to XYZ location. And it just never seems to happen as smoothly as it should.
Well, and that's very true. I was not a timeshare owner. We actually, to tell you my kind of funny little story, is I was planning a surprise trip for my daughter's 6th birthday to the theme parks in Orlando. And we had planned 5 nights in a regular, very well-known resort. And we decided on staying the additional 5 nights at one of the timeshare resorts there in the Orlando area. And that kind of got me thinking. We stayed at the hotel, and the hotel was beautiful. It was fantastic. But, we were in the summer, there in the summer, and in that heat, it was stress. And you have 3 people. I'm a mom of 1, and you have 3 people stuck in this little room with 1 bathroom and a mini fridge. And by the end of the day, you're like, okay, I'm done. Literally. And when we moved on to, we were in our second part of the stay, we were in our 1-bedroom unit, and we had a living room. We had a dining room. We had a full kitchen, a bedroom for mom and dad, a bathroom and a washer and dryer. And it was like the stress just literally fell away. I mean, we each had our own personal space. And I'm a firm believer that moms and dads need their time too on vacation. But, after that stay, I was so amazed at just the difference in vacationing. It really got me looking into timeshares. And eventually, we ended up buying. But the one thing, we did our homework. And that was the key, is doing your homework. So knowing the resort that you're buying into, knowing the accommodations they offer, when you can travel, so in buying, homework is important. But when you're renting, homework is important as well. So, but the savings, when you're renting a timeshare from an owner, you can save substantial amounts from booking directly with the resort. So it works both ways, whether you're buying or whether you're renting. You have to know what you're doing. That's the important thing. But, it's as long as you do your homework, it usually works out pretty good.
So, Valerie, we're speaking with Valerie Hines of Red Week. So my question is this. Would you say Red Week works more as kind of like a broker, kind of like that third party? Are you involved with, tell me the involvement. Is the involvement more just connecting the buyer-seller, or is Red Week anywhere involved in the negotiation process over the actual price?
No, with Red Week, I look at us as a community. Basically a place for owners and their renters or their buyers to come together. So while in the past, in prior years, we hadn't been involved in transactions, that's actually changed a little because of all the scamminess of the timeshare industry.
Yes.
Yeah. And I am, as the customer service manager, I deal with a lot of claims of fraud. I do. Mm-hmm. So I'm a safety girl. I hate to say it, but I'm all about educating people so they know what they're getting into, so they know what they're doing their due diligence. But we're basically a place, it doesn't matter which product an owner chooses, whether it be a do-it-yourself resale, where they post their resale themselves, or the rental, the same thing, a do-it-yourself rental. They rent it themselves and they handle the transaction themselves. But we also have a full-service option where we'll step in and we'll act as the intermediary. We'll post their week for rent or for sale. We'll handle that transaction for them. We want to do this at an affordable price. We don't want it to cost a fortune because there are so many companies out there charging thousands of dollars to do the exact same thing and nothing gets done. That's kind of it in a nutshell. So, we're all about transparency. We really want people to be comfortable with what they're doing on our site. So there are cases with resales where we'll have one of our broker partners will kind of mediate the transaction. But owners can do it themselves as well. So, we can be involved in some transactions, but at the same time, many owners choose to do it themselves, and that's okay too.
Valerie, is there a premium if Red Week is involved in the negotiation process?
We do. We have rentals and we have resales. With our full service rentals, basically what that means is the owner is going to come to us. They're going to say, hey, I have this week that I want to rent to somebody else.
Okay.
We then, from there, we confirm that week. We make sure that they are the owner. We make sure that they can rent it out. We post it for, we advertise it on our website. And when somebody comes in with an offer or wanting to book it, we handle that transaction for them. In those cases, on the rentals, we take the payment. We hold the payment until the renter checks in. Once the renter checks in, then we disperse the funds to the owner. Basically making sure the renter gets what they want or gets what they paid for.
Perfect.
And on the resale side, we always go through a closing company. And so our broker will act as the intermediary between the buyer and the seller, basically handle the negotiation. And we'll coordinate the closing for, between the buyer and the owner, as well as the resort.
Perfect. I do have one negative Nelly question. So,
sure, and I love those.
Because we're setting this one up. Okay. So let's just say it's the place itself was oversold, not in the sense of overbooked, but it was said that there were 3 working bathrooms and 4 rooms, or 2 rooms, but let's say there was a bathroom that's unavailable, or if there's a pool that needed service. How does Redweek get involved in disputes like that, or do you kind of leave it between the buyer and seller?
Well, and that's a great question, because, on the do-it-yourself rentals, where an owner deals directly with their renter, that would be between the owner and the renter, which is why we're very, very, very strong about making sure you pay with a safe payment method. If you have any issues, in most cases, online payment services are great, but once you send the money, it's gone. And so it's up to, so it's up to the owner to really be sympathetic and refund something. So, but it was about a year and a half ago, we started Redweek Payments, and Redweek Payments is, again, like I said, we hold the funds until the renter checks in. If there are no disputes, we send it to the owner. So when a renter has a dispute, and the best advice I can always give is, if there's ever a problem, contact the front desk first. Ask for a manager. Let them know what the issue is. Because many times issues that happen are outside of the owner's control. So resorts, if there's a problem, like a not working bathroom, they're going to fix it. It's as simple as that. They're going to take care of it. If a resort is completely booked up, and something is absolutely the resort's fault, they'll go ahead and they'll work it out with the guest. If it's a situation where, let's say somebody booked a 1-bedroom unit and they got a studio, well, that's a material dispute. That's a valid, very valid material dispute. Now, if a renter is paying with Redweek Payments, for example, they can file a dispute. Then basically we act as the arbiter. We'll contact the resort, and we're all about making parties whole. Simple as that. So again, if it's something outside of the owner's control, we're going to step in. We're going to try and get it fixed. If it's something that cannot be fixed, well, then we look at it. It doesn't happen often at all. But, we're going to look at that, and we're going to say, okay, how much is this renter out? And I think since Redweek Payments started and our full service rental program started, it maybe has happened 3 times. So, but the cool thing about timeshare resorts is that generally they always have some units on hand in case of unit breakage, and so they can move somebody if need be. But they never really oversell. So, it's when you're dealing with timeshares, they book what they have, and that's it, no more. So it's generally the resort is going to make it right. If that doesn't happen, the renter always has the option of filing a dispute, and then we step in, we contact the resort when somebody's using our payment service, and then we'll get it resolved.
We're speaking with Valerie Hines from redweek.com, the largest online marketplace for renting, buying, and selling timeshares. I do have a fun question for you now that you successfully answered the Nervous Nelly question.
I answer that all day long, so it's not a nervous Nelly question.
Okay. So question about what data or insight that you could provide to us on what are the top destinations for timeshare rentals, and what are some of the best deals that are going on with Red Week?
Oh heavens, there are so many, and this is a fun question, and I could easily talk a good hour and a half about this one.
Okay.
Every year in February, we actually put together it's the Red Week Top 25 list. And the top 25 list are basically the most popular timeshares on our site, based on the number of bookings and the number of inquiries that are sent about those bookings. And so our top 25 list, we just actually published it about a week ago. And number one, Aruba. I'm actually a Midwestern girl, and I'm not a beach person, so Aruba is not quite my thing. But Aruba has come in number one year after year after year. We also have Newport Coast, California is another big one. It's close. It's great because the resort is like an oasis. Close enough to the theme parks that you can enjoy those, close enough to San Diego. So it's a cool place to be because everything is, if you're okay with LA traffic and, California traffic, it's a cool place to be because you can get everywhere. Hawaii, always another big one. Atlantis, which if you're familiar with the Bahamas, everybody has seen those Atlantis commercials. That's number 7. Yeah, number 7 on our list. I've been there. It's magnificent. For summer vacations, Hilton Head and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, also amazing places. And then always in the list is Orlando, which I'm kind of an Orlando junkie and spend a lot of time there. And so Orlando is another big one, but definitely Aruba. It's the Caribbean, always very, very popular. Florida, California. Right now, actually, and some of the best deals that are out there right now, I don't know if anybody's a baseball fan. I am. And spring training. And so it's funny because I was actually just looking at, we're Milwaukee Brewers people here where I live. And so I was just looking at accommodations to head down for maybe a week to see a few spring training games. But, we have the Grapefruit League in Florida, the Cactus League in Arizona, and it can be some amazing places to stay and still see the game on really a bargain for spring training tickets.
Nice. That's really nice. Valerie, I guess my last question for you is, if so for our listeners, they want to find out more information about Red Week, plug the Facebook page, maybe the website, and some of your other social media handles if you have them available.
Yeah, sure. Everything. Our website, www.redweek.com. We have a magnificent, amazing customer service team. At the bottom of every page is a contact us link. So if anybody ever has any questions, because it can be confusing, they're more than welcome to call in or email in and let us know any questions you have. We're also on Facebook, and that's facebook.com/redweek, twitter.com/redweek. And, we're not too active in Facebook and Twitter right now, but I expect that's going to grow before too long.
Perfect. Red Week is a smart hidden treasure. Travelers can get deep discounts at great resorts, whether it's renting or potentially purchasing timeshare, but it's a booming way to book vacations, including exotic spots and last-minute getaways. Valerie Hines, I want to thank you so much for joining Late Night Parents.
Oh, well, it's been my pleasure.
And have a great day.
You as well. Thanks so much.